May 3rd, 2023. Manipur conflict erupts. We all know the present Manipur conflict between the Meiteis and the Kukis erupted on 3rd May 2023. As of today, about 260 people from both sides have been killed, thousands injured, and over 60,000 people displaced. All the Kukis in the Meitei-dominated Imphal Valley have left their homes and offices, and all the Meiteis in the Kuki-dominated hill districts have left their homes. The majority of the displaced people live in relief camps. There does not seem to be any end to the conflict or any sign of resolution. In this episode, we will look at what happened on 3rd May that caused this conflict to erupt in such a spectacular fashion. Welcome to The Forgotten Frontier, a podcast based in Northeast India. My name is Syami and I will be your host for today's episode. On May 3rd, there was a rally held by Kuki-zo people in the Churachandpur town. What was the rally about? That is a bit complicated. We will get to it in a few minutes. The rally was entirely within the Churachandpur town, proceeding from Churachandpur public grounds to Tuibung Peace Grounds. It started at 11 a.m. and ended at around 1 p.m. An estimated 1 lakh people participated in the rally. According to a reporter, the people stretched as far as the eye could see. At the end of the rally, the leaders gave a memorandum to the Prime Minister via the Deputy Commissioner, whose office is next door to the peace grounds. Then the rally dispersed. Prior to this, the organization called Meitei-lipun announced a so-called counter-blockade against all hill districts. All the entry and exit points of the hill districts were blocked by Meitei-lipun activists. Tribal groups objected to this, saying, "We haven't declared any blockade. Why are you doing a counter-blockade?" To this, the response was that, since you have done many blockades in the valley districts in the past, we are doing a counter-blockade. In addition to this counter-blockade, the Meiteis also held many rallies at various points in the valley. There was also a rally from Kwakta to Moirang on the previous day. These rallies were done in order to protest the tribal rallies of 3rd May. The Meitei groups also tried to block all the highways within the valley leading to the hill districts. This was early on 3rd morning. Apparently, the police broke them up and sent them home. All these activities of the Meitei side, which was labeled counter-protest, counter-agitation, etc., were well known on 3rd May, but they were suppressed in later discussions because they proved inconvenient. There are 2 large villages at the border between the Churachandpur district and the Bishnupur district, which are called Torbung and Kangvai. They are actually clusters of multiple sub-villages. About 4,000 Kukis and 3,000 Meiteis live in these 2 villages. When the Kuki villagers from these villages that went to the rally were returning home, they ran into the counter-blockade being conducted by Meitei-lipun. This resulted in stone throwing, which degenerated into arson, according to local newspaper. While this was going on, some miscreants came in a white bolero van and started a fire at the base of the Anglo-Kuki War Memorial Gate. After being discovered, they fled back in their van. The Anglo-Kuki War Memorial is a highly revered symbol for the Kukis, representing their forefathers who bravely stood up against the British Empire, fought for 2 whole years, and sacrificed their lives in the process. So the fire sent alarm bells ringing, and as the word spread, people heard that the gate was burnt down. In reality, the fire was a minor one at the base and it was quickly doused. Nevertheless, it was a desecration and it was alarming. What we can gather from this is that many cookies that received the word rushed to the district border, and these people who were going home in trucks and other vehicles from remote villages, many of them turned their trucks around and rushed to the district border as well. Probably several thousand people ended up at the district border, and the stage was set for a major confrontation. The time period for all this was between 2 and 3 p.m. The rally ended at 1 p.m. and it took the Torbung and Kangwai people about an hour to walk back to the district border. The fire at the base of the Anglo-Kuki Memorial Gate is said to have been lit at 2:15 p.m. But something else happened before all this. A timeline circulated by the Delhi Manipuri Society said that two bodies were discovered at the Kangbai village at 1:30 p.m. 1:30 p.m. The Manipur Review of Arts and Politics said that the bodies belonged to the Meitei community, but all further details about this development has been suppressed by the Meiteis and the state government. At 1:30 p.m., most of the Kuki youth from Kangwai were still on the road walking back home. It was mostly old people and women that were home in the village. What were the Meiteis doing there? Kangwai is a Kuki village. Meiteis live in an adjoining village called Pugakjai Itai. Was the Kuki village being attacked by Meitei mobs even when all its youth were away at the rally? This seems very likely. In fact, ANI had published a video of mobs ransacking houses in Kangwai, which was mislabeled as Churachandpur town, even though Kangwai Bazaar is written outside the house that was being vandalized. In the video, the house looks totally empty. The residents have already fled, having locked the doors and the gates. Only Meitei mobs are seen trying to attack the empty houses. The police are also present, but they are just watching without restraining the mobs in any way. There are other videos where the Meitei mobs are setting fire to houses in Kangwai in deserted back streets. The residents had apparently fled. There is nobody to stop the mobs or confront the mobs, but the smoke rising from these houses can be seen from afar. The Meitei timeline claims that at 3:32 p.m., a video of Kuki mobs with AK-47s at S. Boljang and Torbung was circulated. It is one of the viral videos of that day. The Meiteis later claimed that the video showed the Kuki rally and that the Kukis were demonstrating in the rally with sophisticated weapons. However, the video shows a mob of Kuki youth going from Torbung to Kangwai. There was no rally at this location. Most of them were carrying sticks and rods, and only two people had sophisticated weapons. The local youth are shouting excitedly, "Our national army has come." Our national army has come. That seems to be a reference to the armed militants among the group. It is likely that the two people with heavy weapons were trained militants, the rest of them were probably not. The location of the video is the gap between Torbung and Kangwai village, which has a small stretch of farmlands. We can see huge clouds of smoke rising in the direction in which the group is headed. There is only one light column of smoke behind them. This video shows pretty consecutively that house burning started in the Kangwai village and an organized group of Kuki youth came from elsewhere to stop this. According to a tribal leader quoted in India Today, by 2:30 p.m., a group of Meiteis brandishing guns descended on Kuki villages and set houses on fire. They only moved back after Kukis from neighboring villages and towns came to confront them. The initial violence was in Kangwai village. Police and commandos remained mute spectators and sided with them as they went about ransacking and destroying houses. Did they really move back after this? Maybe they did, but Arambai Tengal arrived soon after. Kurungan Ba Kuman, the chief of Arambai Tengal, demanded an apology and clarification from National People's Party Manipur Unit President Yamnam Joy Kumar for his allegations in a social media post that the outfit attacked the Kuki community. Kuman had this to say in one of his recent outbursts. In the midst of your politically oriented conflict, do not sell the land. On May 3rd, it was 4 p.m. when Arambai Tengol went to Pugakchai in Bishnupur district to save houses engulfed in inferno burnt by armed mobs from Churachandpur. Pugakchai is located 10 kilometers from Churachandpur. The mention of Pugakchai, which is a Meitei village next to Kangwai, is a dissimulation. There was very little damage to this village in the initial days of violence. Kuman actually went to Kangwai, which is documented in a video. So that is how the violence began in Kangwai village, which was spread to Torbong. House burning took on an intensity after dark. The huge Kuki mobs that had gathered in the district borders by this time went back to Torbung Bangla, which is further back inside the Churachandpur district, and almost totally burnt it down. The local residents had all fled when the mobs arrived. Both Kukis and Meiteis had fled. The mobs didn't know which houses belonged to whom, so all of them thought that it was unsafe to remain behind. Meanwhile, videos of huge infernos of burning houses went viral on social media. Again, according to Meitei timeline, Meitei mobs started gathering at New Chekon in Imphal at 6:50 p.m. Mobs were also gathering in Churachandpur and Moreh at around the same time. The timeline says Meitei mobs retaliated by starting fires in Imphal at 8:11 p.m. This so-called retaliation went on throughout the night and continued the next day. We know what happened that night only through anecdotal evidence. Newspapers didn't cover it. The Imphal media were not interested, perhaps, and the national media didn't have the information to report.
Guys, pokai je ha ate gi sine to akoi ne tharam ba gari de pokai ri se hau gi gari do gari no aso na kanam nei te haba chala se langon da Firstly, me ma'am say, listen, Moku me and Nilapin, area the labor, who made him some ma'am, she police. My mamma and Maramoraga, ma'am, so udre. The Lucy is a Kolango Tom Jalani. I'm on the self you a people, Mamma who's like I do more Marata, who is such a party. Money, she cried, Nete. How are they to Mugo look on the Cielo? Tabio, do how I make it a Chiquito? How I make it a Chiquito bill? Make it a how a Chiquito bill. Malida.
All that the newspapers reported were tidbits released by state authorities, such as curfew imposed, internet shutdown, army columns deployed, shoot at sight order, or Article 355, which were all intended to project the image of a government that was acting promptly with alacrity. But the reality was quite the opposite. For a starter, Pugakchai Ithai, the Meitei village next to Kangwai, has a full-fledged police station. It was established in 2016 and is meant to cover the entire southern area of the Bishnupur district. It would have been a simple matter for the police to stop the violence in the bud at Kangwai, but they did not do so. The ANI video shows quite clearly the police standing by while the mobs were ransacking the houses. Unidentified men attacked tribal houses in Kangwai along the Bishnupur-Churachandpur border. Police personnel could be seen following the mob as it went on rampaging and vandalizing houses. To make matters worse, the police force stationed in two districts, that is Bishnupur and Churachandpur, are said to have got into a rough patch amongst each other. So far, the outcome of this bizarre incident is yet to be confirmed. Lieutenant General Nair, the then Director General of Assam Rifles, said that the IG of Assam Rifles was summoned to the Chief Minister's office at 2 p.m. and he went there within half an hour. However, it was not until 8:30 p.m. that the Assam Rifles was requisitioned, a crucial delay during which the violence escalated. By 8:30 p.m., large mobs had gathered in both Churachandpur and Imphal. It appears they got the situation under control in Churachandpur by around midnight, but in Imphal, the crowds were too large and too active at too many places, so nothing could be done to control them. Neighborhood after neighborhood were burned down, and the residents ran for their lives. Victim testimonies say no police came and no fire trucks came either. Why did all this happen? Why did the violence erupt on 3rd May? It is a complicated question, and we will attempt to address it throughout this series with various pieces of insight offered by experts. For now, it is important to state that it is not about the so called scheduled tribe demand of the Meitei community. For sure, the tribal rallies on 3rd May was to protest the scheduled tribe demand, but the Kukis also had a much more compelling grievance, a burning question, if you will, regarding eviction from reserved forests. It should be remembered that there was already Section 144 and night curfew in Churachandpur before the 3rd May rally. The Kukis had defied these restrictions to hold their rally. There was also a ban on mobile internet already in place, though we don't know how effective it was. The Kukis had been protesting the eviction, actually the bulldozing of a village called Ke Songjang, and the potential eviction of 28 large villages in the Churachandpur Khaupum protected forest. The state government had cancelled the orders issued in the 1970s, which had allowed these villages to exist inside the protected forest. There were also various other grievances, but the eviction sent a message to the Kukis that the state government was scheming to grab tribal land. The scheduled tribe demand of the Meiteis also added to this grievance because if the Meiteis were to receive a tribal status, they could buy tribal land in the hill regions as well. However, the Kuki anger was directed at the government during the rally, not at the Meitei populace. It is the provocation made by the Meitei mobs in conducting counter blockades and the attempted burning of the Anglo-Kuki War Memorial Gate that turned the anger towards the Meitei community itself. It now seemed to the Kukis that the Meitei community and the state government were hand in glove with each other and ready to exploit the tribals, especially the Kukis, whose villages were being evicted. Nevertheless, it was the Meitei groups that started attacking and burning houses in Kangwai first. How did they do that? The organization that implemented the counter blockades, Meitei Lipun, is known to have been close to the then Chief Minister Biren Singh. The Meitei Lipun chief Pramod Singh has said, "We knew something like this would happen one day, so our cadres have been stationed in these villages on the periphery of the Meitei-dominated Imphal Valley well before the start of the riots on May 3rd. It seems that it was a premeditated action by the Meitei groups to provoke the Kukis on 3rd May, using the Kuki rally as an excuse to trigger hostilities. The fact that a venue that the chief minister was meant to inaugurate on 28th April was burnt down by the Kukis was taken as a personal affront by the chief minister, and he could have mobilized to react against the Kukis. Manipur Chief Minister N. Biren Singh said that Myanmar immigrants are responsible for deforestation, poppy cultivation, and drug menace in the state. Throughout the roughly 2 years of the conflict, the Meitei community has never acknowledged their role in instigating and deliberately starting the Manipur violence. They have always alleged that the so-called Kuki militants, with the support of illegal immigrants and poppy cultivators, were responsible for the violence. These are all just wild and unsubstantiated allegations. The reality is that their own active groups, militants, and elected politicians were responsible for instigating and later sustaining one of the worst excesses of mass violence in independent India. This is our first episode for the Forgotten Frontier podcast series on Manipur. We thank you for listening and join us in the next one.